3, 2, 1. Good evening, folks, and welcome to the August episode of Page Turner Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Kari Medill, along with the one and only...
Rob McCandless. That's me. I'm Rob McCandless.
Did you forget your name? I actually called myself... Right? You did. I noticed that, and I used my wrong last name. So it's okay. That's what we get for taking July off. I know we took July off. I did anyway.
Yeah.
So, Rob, who do we have with us tonight?
I have such a great guest tonight. We have John Wilker. He's a science fiction writer living in Denver, Colorado. When not writing what he calls fast, fun sci-fi, he's organizing conferences and events. John has written, and get this, Kari, 9 books in his Space Rogue series, 2 in his Grand Human Empire series, and he says, sadly, only 1 in his pen-named action thriller series. Apparently, there's just not enough hours in the day for all the stories he wants to write. John got his start as a writer in the 3rd grade for his epically short story, The Day Ziggy Saved the Space Needle, winning something or other in the Lake Washington Young Authors Conference. To date, that is the only award his writing was won, but there's still time. John Wilker.
Welcome to the show, John.
Thank you. I'm not holding out hope on the awards, but you never know.
I want to know if it's like Ziggy. Was it Ziggy, this cartoon character that saved the Space Needle?
It was, yes.
I thought it would be Ziggy Stardust.
When you're in 3rd grade, copyright doesn't mean a whole lot.
Right.
No. I mean, no. And how did he do it?
With a squirt gun and lying.
Wow, that's a good message for 3rd graders.
Right, yeah. No, it's important to get deceit down early and just have that all locked in.
So you've been writing since you were in the 3rd grade. What were you reading when you were in the 3rd grade? And is that what made you want to be a writer? Were you a big reader as a kid?
I wasn't. My parents used to have to bribe me to read with G.I. Joes. I would read a book and write a little book report just for them to prove that I'd read the book. And then I got to pick out any G.I. Joe I wanted.
Wow.
So for the first few years of my reading, that was the only reason I did it, was to build my small army.
Did you have the classic G.I. Joes? Which G.I. Joes are we talking about here?
The little small guy.
The 5.5?
Are they that tall or 3?
3? Oh.
Like the 80s G.I. Joes. Yeah, I feel like
We're talking about
swivel hips and the rubber band that held them all together.
Yep. Like 5 points of articulation or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, I wish I'd have thought of that. I just listened to my parents for free.
Right.
What the hell?
Well, Kari, you're Canadian, so like
that doesn't mean. Actually, you know what? We're way worse. You know, Canadian teenagers are so bad, and here's why: because we have like 8 months of winter, so we're just like cooped up. We're cooped up under all this snow. And then when we finally do get out squinting into the daylight, we have all this pent up aggression and energy. And we only get we're like cicadas, you know, we get out and we like scream for the first, 2 months. And then after that, it's just all booze, drugs, and fornication.
Right. You guys are horrible. No G.I. Joes.
Yeah, no. I'm not entirely sure. Granted, I wasn't a teenager then, so I'm not entirely sure who was winning. Me and my G.I. Joes, or the sex, drugs, and fornication of the Canadians.
No, definitely Canada. Canada, we've never lost a war. I don't think we've ever been in a war, but we never lost one. Did we? So, if you weren't a reader as a kid, how did that G.I. Joe morph into I want to write science fiction?
I've not. I guess it just kind of came about naturally. Like I've always, after getting through the G.I. Joe reading trade thing, I kind of stopped reading for fun, like through like middle and high school, and then a friend got me hooked on Terry Brooks' Shannara series, which kind of like relaunched my reading for fun. During high school and stuff, of course, I was just reading boring textbooks that I hated, and so reading didn't hold a lot of thrills. But then after that, in English class, I was always the best parts for me were always the write write short stories or write, do some writing exercise. But it didn't really like get started until like one of my last like corporate jobs before I kind of went off on my own. My coworker and I we worked a really early shift because we had like an hour and a half. It was when I lived in Riverside of all places, actually.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and worked in
Irvine. Oh my gosh, where's Riverside?
That's where I live.
Oh, nice.
It's in California.
Tell everybody, Rob.
Do you want to? It's 1832.
Rob, no, don't. You know what? Crazy Canadians at your door.
Yeah.
Screaming for 2 hours. Okay, so go on. So you lived in Riverside?
I lived in Riverside.
And you moved because of Rob? No, I'm just kidding.
And so we drove in really early because we had this hellish commute. And we would always stop at Krispy Kreme and buy donuts on, one day a week, basically. And so we would just send out an email like, hey, friends that are in this office building with us, we have donuts that are in our cubicle. And at some point I started making them into little short stories. And so like the emails would get like super lengthy for an email, all to just basically say donuts are at my desk. And people started like coming by and like signing up for this like donut newsletter. Be like, I don't actually want any donuts, but I enjoy reading your emails. And so I ended up having like my very first newsletter of people that I told about donuts. And so that was kind of, I think, where it like got its real actual start was we called them the crispy emails because we stopped at Krispy Kreme.
Oh.
So you realized that you enjoyed it. You enjoyed writing and you enjoyed people reading your stuff.
Yeah. That was the first time anyone other than like teachers for projects had read anything I wrote for fun. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. People like this, like what I write. So.
But why did you go to sci-fi rather than, like contemporary stories or something?
I've always loved sci-fi. As a kid, I watched Star Trek TNG when it came on and, reruns. And then, later into life when the Sci-Fi Channel was full of sci-fi shows, I left it on all day long. In my first apartment, it was always on because there's always some sci-fi to watch. So yeah, sci-fi has always been like my thing. And most of the crispy emails had like a sci-fi hint. Like, donut-shaped aliens or aliens coming for donuts, or usually variations on a theme of some creature wanting all of our donuts.
I love it.
I do too. Did you ever have a Cthulhu that wanted your donut?
I don't remember. I only remember the one about aliens. I really wish in hindsight that I had kept them or stayed in contact with any of the people that I worked with that could have gotten them for me. So because I have none. And I never thought at the time to like send them to my personal email or do anything else with them. But I certainly might have, because they always ranged from like, fantasy or sci-fi. Somebody was trying to take all the donuts. And at the end of the story was, but we saved a few and they're at my desk.
So it was an adventure.
Yeah.
What's some of your favorite sci-fi besides Star Trek?
Star Trek definitely is one. Star Wars. On the small screen, I'm forever in love with Firefly.
Oh yeah, I was hoping you'd say
those, 12 episodes, probably more than I've watched a number of much longer running shows.
Yeah.
I really dug, even though it was campy and goofy, Andromeda.
Yeah.
Like sometime in the 90s, if I remember, or maybe it was 2000s, but
early 2000s. Early 2000s.
Is that what it was? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. Another less, it was definitely sci-fi, but a little more grounded, was Almost Human with Carl Urban. Also a sad one season wonder, but usually if there's a science fiction aspect to it, I will watch it.
What science fiction writers do you read?
I read a ton of indie stuff. I've obviously like, John Scalzi. What was I reading right now? I'm reading. Let me open the thing that actually manages them so that I don't butcher anybody's names. But I'm reading it right now. Cannot remember the name of it. I loved all the Wild Card series.
Oh, okay.
Probably maybe the most recent, like kind of traditionally bigger name published stuff I've been reading the new Star Wars novels that they've been releasing, which I've enjoyed pretty much. Empire of Light is what I'm currently reading by Alex Haro, who I saw at a convention in 2020, one of the online pandemic ones. He was on a panel, and his book sounded interesting.
And what's your position on Dune, both the book and the new movie?
All right, so this might cost me the cred that Star Wars earned me. I have no position because I have, if at all possible, less than zero interest in Dune.
Wow, nice.
Yeah, I've never read them, so I'll preface it with that. Every time I think about it, I find threads where people are like, "Oh, the first one was great. The second one was like, a Bisquick recipe book," and which then kind of turns me off. I'm like, "Oh, well, that doesn't sound very appealing at all."
It was delicious, or it was...
left an aftertaste in my mouth.
Yeah. I have seen the original movie, and I've seen the sci-fi one that had Patrick Stewart in it. I think the Sci-Fi Channel made that one.
No. Patrick Stewart was in the original with Kevin MacLachlan.
Oh, no, you're right. What was the one Sci-Fi made?
The one Sci-Fi made was The Children of Dune. And but it did star somebody.
Yeah, there was definitely someone in it. Anyways, I saw that one too, but none of them, I was just kind of like, yeah, okay, sure. And so now I'm at the point where, like, when they keep redoing it, I'm always just like, is there just nothing else we have? Is this it? The rest of my adult life is just Dune remakes?
Yeah.
I think that people who haven't read the Dune books are not going to really understand what's happening in the movie, because there's so many epic moments in the Dune books that I know they're going to amplify them in the movie and then just have a series of like epic moments, and people are just going to be like, huh? How does this even relate? I just don't think they're going to be able, in the 2.5 hours or whatever the movie's going to be, really tell the story. Dune almost has to be a series. Like,
they just need to do what they did with the first one, which I only know this. I didn't see it in the theaters. But my parents told me, was like, it was so long there was like an intermission. That's what we need, is just, let's make a 6-hour Dune movie. I won't go see it, but
yeah.
Dune people will, and they will love it. And then there's an intermission where they can go to the bathroom and stock up on popcorn.
You just make it, or you just make a trilogy, right?
Right.
I don't think that's what they've done with this, have they?
No, they always try and do like one-offs in TV miniseries.
Yeah, I don't know. But I'm gonna go see it. But
Are you gonna go see it? Wait. Are you gonna go see it, or are you gonna wait? Are you gonna wait for like DVD?
Are you kidding me? It's got Jason Momoa. I'm gonna be sleeping outside the theater.
Does it have Jason Momoa?
Got Jason Momoa.
You would know. I have no clue.
It's got Jason Momoa. It's got Timothée Chalamet. I'm going to go see it. You know what? I'm going to see anything at this point because I love going to the movies, and I haven't been since The Rise of Skywalker because they closed the movie theaters.
Yeah, I was kind of okay with that. Is that a sin?
No. But I mean, I like going to the VIP movie theater where you sit and they serve you, and you've got like a table and your chair is like that's where we go, and it's Brody won't go anywhere, so whenever I can get him to do something, like that's like just like a big deal for me. So we're actually going to Candyman on Tuesday, and I haven't been to the movies since December of 2019. I love to go to the movies.
The night theaters definitely spoil you for that.
Yeah, that's true. I used to love going to the theater, but then I realized like my home theater is so much better because I can stop the movie whenever I want.
Yeah, no, Brody prefers the home theater too.
Yeah, like and I have even the super comfy chairs at the theater still aren't my chair at home. Maybe I'm just old. Maybe I'm old.
No, maybe. Well, yeah, you're old, but I think it's just a thing. Like some people just don't want to go sit somewhere for 2 hours while watch a movie. I get that, but Canadians love movies. When you have 8 months of winter, you are watching a lot of movies.
Do you love them, or are you conditioned to them?
You know what? I don't even know. To be honest, I don't even know. I think I love them. I prefer watching movies over watching TV series or television, period.
Yeah.
I'll watch. My movies are my go-to to put on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I like
you've
the
written
story to be wrapped up. Like, I don't want to wait 18 seasons into Supernatural to find out what happens.
why
That it
watch
was all a
that?
dream.
Yeah,
Like,
it was all a
watched
dream.
It wasn't a dream.
I know.
Okay.
We're way off the topic. We have John with us here.
I know. I want to hear about John's writing process because he's written so many books.
So many, right? And John, that can't be all. Those are just the published books, right? You're sitting on 18 books, aren't you?
What? Literally or figuratively? Because that would be
Well,
uncomfortable.
in effect, neither. I don't know why, but I am not one of those people that does the start a thing and shelve it and think about it or any of that. If I start it, it gets out.
You just sit down and bang it out.
You're my
Yeah,
new
or I push through. Like if I can't, like if I get blocked up, I like figure out a way to unblock on it and keep going. I have literally zero like drawer drafts.
Wow.
No, good for you. I mean, there's some people that are like that. Not everybody's full of self-loathing, Rob, like you and
I'm not gonna name any names here, but a certain writer I know is sitting on like, I don't know, 5 or 6 different starts of stories.
Who's that? You?
I don't know his name. He's a jerk. That's all I know. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's great.
I have like 1 or 2, like 2 page, like I get a page or 2 in, but I don't consider those aren't far enough along that I would like. Those were abandoned long before they got to be anywhere near. Like
to cut early. That's nice.
I
get 20, 30,000 words into something, and then I'm like, well, this is boring.
So John, tell us a little bit about your writing process then. Do you just have an idea? Do you do do you do a major outline, chapter outlines? What are you, do pants, or what do you do?
I tend to do mostly pantsing. Lately I've been doing a little bit more like I'll plot line stuff out. I found part of why I think I don't have a lot of like trunk draft stuff is I found that when I outline, if I outline I've never like taken any like classes on how to outline, so I'm probably not good at it. They end up being very like detailed outlines. And by the time I get to the end, I'm like, well, that's the whole story. I don't need to write it. It's right. Like I got it all out. It's all in this outline now.
So do you add dialogue in your outline?
I don't add dialogue. I just do the beats, or I did. But I would still find myself just uninterested after I got all that out. I'd be like, all right, well, that's how that story ends. And I didn't the dialogue. Like I would just, once I understood like how it was all going to go, which I think is part of why I mostly am just a pantser, is because like when I did it that way, I'd be like, well, that's the story. I've told it to myself, so I'm good. And so now when I'm writing, I'm telling it to myself, but without an outline. I'm just doing it as I go. And so when I get to the end, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. That's how this story ends, and I'm actually done writing it.
So you're just like A to B.
Yeah.
But you must go back. How many drafts do you write?
1. Well,
one draft with just editing.
Right. Yeah. 1 draft with editing. There's only 1 book so far where I've had to like actually go in and do like serious like moving things, cutting things, rewriting big portions. The rest of the time, yeah, it's I finish the draft, let it sit, send it to my beta reading friends, come back and then like, do revisions, just like clean up all my like little, to do brackets where I can't remember someone's name or a place or whatever. And then it goes off to the editor.
And no character sketches?
Mm-mm.
Wow, you're brave. You're like the Wild West.
Yeah, I mean, as I've gone, so now I have a story Bible. So now I do have differing degrees of character sketch details, just so that I remember, whose eyes are what color, which hand are dominant, like, what are their nervous tics. But even that, that's it. And it tends to be more like discovery. Like I'll be writing and I'll be like, so-and-so did this thing. And I'm like, oh, so-and-so's right-handed. And then I have to like rush off to the Bible to like record that.
Record that
right.
down. Yeah. Yeah. How much, I'm curious how much character description you go into in each of your books. Do you do a lot? Like, flowing umber, brown, cascading hair with, highlights of pink and mauve. I'm just curious.
It's mauve.
Mauve.
Mauve. Not very much. I've actually tried to beef up a little bit in newer projects, my description and world building. A lot of the times I go really light, and I'm okay with that for the most part, just to let people kind of figure out oh, this character looks like me, or it looks like so-and-so that I know, or it's Jason Momoa or whatever. Right. But I've been trying to beef that up a little bit just because I realize it's one of those things where it's not that I'm not good at it. I just tend to gloss over a lot of world building stuff. And so I've been trying to add in some details like how tall is so-and-so and, what color hair does he have? And so I've been working more on that just to get a little bit more descriptive.
Yeah, all my characters look like Jason Momoa, all of them. But
I mean, it's a safe play.
I love your work.
I know, right? So at one point I was so heavy into character description, I knew down to quarters of inches what characters' heights were, and not just the color of their hair, but the cut and the weave and thickness, and my Bibles were huge just on characters, and then I would really, really try to shove it into the book. And then one day I was watching an interview with Patrick Rothfuss, and he had Terry Brooks on and some other people that I can't remember, and they were all talking about characters, and they're like, you don't need to talk about characters at all, what they look like. You can give very, very, brief. Okay, they were taller than 3 of the people in the room, but shorter than the other 2. Okay, great. You can go really, really light on the details and leave it to your readers, and the readers will fill it all in. And unless it's, germane to the plot, you don't. And once they said that, I was like, oh my gosh, this weight lifted off of my shoulders, because shoving it all into a book was so hard.
Yeah. You're like, how do I work in their length of hair, or more minute, yeah.
So I don't know about you, and I don't know about you, Kari, but in my head, I know what they look like, but I've quit trying to push that into the book.
I pick a couple things.
Mm-hmm. Always Jason Momoa. Okay.
Well, okay, so if it was Jason Momoa, it would be broad shoulders and a crafty smile. I don't know. You got to leave it up to the reader too, right? Readers don't always want to be told what people look like. You know what I do when I'm writing? Usually it's a celebrity, because I'm really horrible with just making up people. So I'll pick somebody who's famous, or somebody I know on the bus or something, and that's what the character looks like. And then I'll pick 2-3 things, because the reader will fill in its own. What did we know about, say, what's a famous character? I don't know. I'm trying to think now. All the books I've ever read.
Well, we can go straight to Harry Potter, your favorite. Okay. We talk about Dumbledore, and there are certain aspects of Dumbledore's past or whatever that were not necessary to the plot, so they weren't included. But then, a year or 3 or 12 later, Rowling comes out and says, this is the case, and we're like,
no. When it comes to character sketches, I will do down to the buttons on their jacket. But what actually makes it into a story?
What gets into the story, yeah.
Is not. But I'll know everything. I have backstories, pages and pages and pages of backstories for characters.
Yeah.
For the new book that I'm writing, I've done I've spent a year writing characters, world building, because I don't think I'm good enough at world building. And so, but what makes it into the book is going to be, very different from.
Yeah.
I have to know their history, but the reader doesn't necessarily. Although going to Harry Potter, I did figure out that Dumbledore was gay, because in book 7, spoiler alert, if for anybody, you stop me now if you haven't read it or don't want to know. Book 7, he had a lover's spat with his neighbor who was his buddy. They were supposed to go traveling together. Dumbledore couldn't go. I can't remember now. I just remember I was in my 30s, and I am obsessed. And probably
always will be. Yeah.
Obsessed with Harry Potter. And so I knew that him and Grindelwald were having a lover's spat, because who flips out and acts like that when your buddy can't go traveling. Like only your lover, and you guys are running away together. Like it was obvious to me. I wasn't 10 though, because everybody else was like, "Oh, he's gay." It's like, yeah, you were 10. You don't know this stuff yet. Like,
yeah,
you can't read between the
You
lines.
fight with your sister over socks.
right at 10. Yeah.
Yeah, like you're not thinking, oh, that's a lover spat. You don't even know what that is. Like, so
John,
there's
no, go ahead, Kari. Go ahead.
No, I'm done. It'll just turn into a big show about Harry Potter. So just let's move on.
But John, I don't know. So I like to do this thing, not hinted. Like sometimes I have hints at things, but I also like to interject my own personal little like Easter eggs. I don't know if you ever do that.
I do. Well, I guess it depends. Like what for me, my personal Easter eggs are all mostly like pop culture references.
Yeah.
And so like in the Space Rogue series, Will is from Earth. The Space Rogue series kind of tracks a lot along initially, kind of a Farscape style, lone human bumbles his way into, deep space and there's aliens everywhere. But Will has managed to like have a little bit more control of his life, and he has this big archive of all the stuff that he liked as a kid to watch and all this. And so the books are like just full of mostly the aliens not understanding some of the stuff that he's into. Mm-hmm. And so then their takes on like, oh crap, Scott Bakula, and I'm blanking, Quantum Leap. There's a bit where he talks about Quantum Leap and they don't understand, and then because it's set in the future, I get to like riff on like, oh man, that Avengers 9 was not nearly as good as the first. Stuff like
when
that.
they got to 15,
awesome.
They really hit their second wind. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I get to play a lot with stuff like that, and then and the one that I'm currently that's about to come out, there's some more like just old timey TV show references that one of the characters is like mashing up in order to sell as his own stories, and the mix of like Andromeda and Space Precinct and like all these like stuff, and then Will is like, you can't just take other people's stuff, and there's a bit on copyright.
Yeah. Which is always engrossing reading, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Will goes on a thing about creators' rights.
Right. You get into the gray area.
Nobody cares about Earth. Yeah.
Referencing, and if you reference the thing and who created it, is that still cool?
Exactly.
Oh, that's fun. But do you ever put in things like only you and 3 other people would get?
Oh, I haven't done a lot, but and now I'm blanking on one. I did do that because two of my best friends kind of were my early like beta readers, and we have this like Slack where we just kind of BS all day about whatever has to be going on. And so there was something, I can't remember what it was now, that I put in that only the 3 of us would know.
Yeah.
But yeah, not as much because I usually don't think about it in time. Like even now I'm like in rereading bits and pieces of one of them. I'm like, I should have added a little bit of callback to that, but did not. So
yeah. And I think most writers are like that. I think until we've got a few books under our belt, published through the editing process and everything, that we don't really get seasoned to those things, and then it just becomes part of the tool palette. Absolutely. Yeah. And then nobody understands what we're talking about. Like, well, it must be good. He wrote it, but I don't get it.
Yeah. Here, but okay.
Yeah. Nice. What are you working on now, John?
So I'm putting the finishing touches on the 9th book in the Space Rogue series. I actually had to push my pre-order. I flew a little too close to the sun recently. Missed my initial deadline. So that comes out next week. I'm looking at the calendar. I thought, next or week after this coming, the 8th of September. So I'm putting the finishing touches on that to get it uploaded everywhere. And then I'm kind of starting from zero. I don't have anything that I've currently started like plotting out or writing ideas down, just because I was so focused on getting that. And then the second book on the Grand Human Empire series, which is my newer one. out that I've not put any effort into like sitting down and noodling on what's next. So I'm like, oh, all right, well, I guess I should figure that out because this one I'm about to turn it in, and then I have 0 on the plate.
That's awesome. I remember when I finished my first one, and I was like, and I'm done. And like, I felt so light and airy, but then like 3 days later, like panic, because I need to write more. I don't know what to write. Yeah.
I'm definitely not looking forward to that sensation because I am very much in the same boat, and I'm like, okay, so what? Like, I don't have any like pre-order links to include, which I haven't. That kind of irks me a little bit. That I'm like, but now having screwed up a pre-order, I don't want to fate. But then I'm just like, all right, well now what do I do when I tend to like wrap up my other job timing like around 3 or 4, and then I go in the living room and put on a random sci-fi show and we'll work on writing stuff. I'm like, I don't have anything on the books right now.
Yeah, right.
But from what Rob tells me, you've got some really interesting and great marketing strategies.
The skywriting didn't work out.
The what?
The skywriting. That one didn't work. Very expensive. Wouldn't do it.
What are you talking about, Rob?
No, you're a strong marketer, right, John? Like I know you probably don't want to brag or feel like you're bragging, but I see the advice you give, and like I jot it down or I note it, or like we've chatted about some stuff in threads and whatever. Like you're pretty strong marketer.
I definitely it is hard for me to say strong, but I definitely I have put more effort than I would like to put into it for sure. But yeah, part of my like end goal with this is, so my other day job is I run the conferences, and it's my own company. So thankfully I get to kind of pick and choose what I work on when. But my goal is to have writing supplant that income, and then make the conferences more of the fun. I do it without having to stress about money. And so as part of that, I was like, well, I got to figure out marketing because, what is it, like 1 million books a year or something get put up on Amazon. So I was like, ain't no one just going to stumble on my stuff. I need to work that serendipity of stumbling. So yeah, I've played with ads. I've played with merch, tried to do, in-person stuff. Obviously that's been sidelined for a bit now, but I think I've given most things a try. I haven't tried the Times Square billboards, which is a tab that I have had open for a while. Only because I don't know what that. I don't know who's in Times Square at the time I could afford to have a billboard running. It is reading books.
It's the wrong group, right?
Right. Yeah. I'm like, I can afford the 2:15 to 2:45 a.m. block, and those people probably aren't big readers.
Yeah, they're
or coherent enough to even look at billboards.
Right, exactly. That's awesome.
Unless you have it with like a bunch of subliminal messages.
Right. That's what I
goes,
need.
Right.
To just be
and then
like
you just
strobing to get their attention.
Subliminal messages, and then you have a whole whack of serial killers, prostitutes, and crazy people buying your books. Sales are sales. Don't be snotty.
That's a niche. That's a niche. You should own it.
Yeah.
So, nobody owns that yet. So.
And if you are good as Rob says at marketing, you might think about opening a little online marketing gig where you market for other authors. Because can I tell you, indie authors don't want to market. They want somebody else to do it for them, but they don't have any money to pay them.
Yeah.
They have some.
You're really selling this, Kari. There's this group of
yeah.
people who really need marketing, and they can't pay for it. So you should do that for them and make no money.
No, but you can
I
make
already have
some.
2 jobs that don't make a ton of money. I don't need a third one.
You could make some, because I paid for marketing. I paid for people to market, and I paid for book tours too. Didn't you, Rob?
Oh yeah.
So I mean, it's you probably could make some money.
You can. There's money to be made. But it depends on what you want to do, and
then you're spending all your time doing that, or you can have it open like twice a year.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like, here's your months where I'm going to work on your marketing, and then I'll, you know what I mean? Then you should close up shop or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
what marketing advice would you give in general, like new authors, veteran authors, whatever? What advice would you give in general for marketing? Like, what's the one thing you're like, man, everybody misses this. How can everybody miss this?
I feel like, so I guess I probably have two answers to that, depending on like where you are and how many books. So like last year, I put a ton of effort into like Facebook ads. I did AMS ads, which is Amazon's platform, but it's really hard. Like Amazon, at least thankfully, doesn't want to take your money for no reason. Like they only want to convert an ad for you or run an ad if they know that that person will buy, which is at least a plus, because Facebook, on the other hand, is like, we will take all of your money and show your ads to toddlers.
No one. Yes.
Yeah. So I definitely, that part is nice to where you can kind of ease in and not just lose all of your money. But the other hand, it's just incredibly hard to actually get them to take your money. And so I liked running Facebook ads more. One, I'm wide, so I like being able to target, like, I don't want Kobo people seeing Amazon stuff and vice versa. So yeah. Facebook made that super easy. I could kind of target people. But yeah, really focusing, I think, on Facebook ads. If for the early part, like that was my last year's strategy. I'll tell you this year's after that. But like I had ads that were specific to each platform, specific to like book ones or the omnibus, things like that. I had, ads that had like the book cover, and then, there was a trend where everyone was like, oh God, don't put the book cover, just have a generic like stars background with a nebula somewhere. And so I have, ads that are just like a generic, you're scrolling past it and you're like, why is this just a screen of stars? And, tried all those things. And it was the worst part of ads, I think, that a lot of folks struggle with is that they're just so hard to coincide with things. You might, Facebook's like, hey, you got 2,000 impressions, but you're like, well, I didn't sell 2,000 books.
Yeah.
And so then you're kind of like, did the 3 books I sell, were those because of those 2,000 impressions, or just random Amazon stuff or random Kobo or wherever stuff? So you just have no idea what's happening. So yeah, I feel like that's kind of my initial one. Like, especially if you don't have a ton of books in the catalog and you're not maybe necessarily ready to like make book one free, or you don't want to go down that path. This year, my strategy was book one for free of the Space Rose, because I got, soon to be 9 books. So I have plenty to like sell down the road.
So there was nothing for you to give away the first one to get them hooked.
Right. Yeah, which is the key to that whole, like, if you've got 2, giving away book 1 is a really tough sell, because unless the second book is $9.99, it's hard to make that work. Yeah. But this year, that's been my thing, is just book 1 was free of that series. And I've just been signing up on like every like paid newsletter I could find, like Free Books, Bart, like Book Funnel, if I could get one. And so far I've only gotten 1, or I got 2 this year, but only for my omnibuses, not the first book. But that, as a strategy, I've gotten into plenty of Facebook fights with people on it, and it's one of those polarizing strategies where everyone's like, I can't give away my book. It took, potentially for some folks decades to write, and then cost money and editing covers. But that was one of the things that for me, which I guess maybe there's a third part of this answer for starting authors, is like, it's still a business. And if you get, the lost leader thing, a powerful strategy. And so, yeah, if someone will get my book for free, if they hate it, I'm only out a non-sale. But if they love it and they buy 8 other books, well, it's the cost of that one free book. And it's a very shotgunny approach. Like, you give out, kind of like trying to get reviews. You splatter the whole of the earth with thousands of copies. 1 or 2 reviews. Very much the same with 1 or 2 sales come out of every few hundred books, probably.
Free books, yeah. And I think
no dreams of traditional publishing, where they, where your book would be in a bookstore.
Yeah, I don't know. That never was a thing I even thought about. I don't know why. Maybe because I came at it just so weirdly, like I always just kind of did NaNoWriMo, and that's where book 1 was born of the Space Rogue series. But yeah,
Right.
it never even occurred to
Okay.
me. Like, I never, doing the agent thing never occurred to me, trying to find, all of it. I just was like, all right, well, the book's done. Now, granted, I made tons of mistakes and literally was like, all right, well, no, the book's done. I guess I should put it on Amazon, which is a horrible idea. But yeah, it never occurred to me to go down that path. And so, yeah, now at this point, I'm like, if someone came to me and was like, we're interested, I might be inclined to listen to that conversation. But for the most part, I'm like, I'm doing all the hard work now, so I might as well just reap the money that comes in versus losing the cut.
Want creative control, but you have an editor, you said.
Yes. The whole, book one done from NaNoWriMo, put it on Amazon, didn't have an editor. Terrible idea.
I think we can all laugh at you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that was one of those things where it's like, I don't know why this seemed like a good idea.
Let's hold my beer moment.
It's part of it. It's
Right.
part of the journey. Don't be too hard on yourself.
You're right. But
You
But
still,
look back, now we can all laugh at John.
well,
Yeah.
in 10 years when he's got his own sci-fi series, he's going to be looking back on this show doing the same thing, Rob.
Right. But I'll still be the artist, right? He'll have sold out.
Bad, thoroughly. Maybe even gleefully.
Yes. Yeah.
You sell out.
Oh my gosh. Show me where to sign.
I very much one of those that is not precious to me. So long as Jason Momoa is the lead actor, show me where to sign.
Right. I think we're all in agreement. Yeah. No, I love it. I think that's really good advice, and I think you actually touch on a lot of good stuff there. Like, one of the things is, if you want to be a writer and you want to publish, then it's a business. It's not an easy thing. Well, maybe it comes easy for some people. I don't know, but like, the majority of folk out there are pouring their heart and soul into this thing, and then they think everybody should just flock and buy their book because they did all that work.
Yeah.
And that ain't it. And if it were, we'd all be rich, and that'd be great. But you really do have to consider your audience. You have to go through a lot of the motions that big traditional publishers go through automatically, even if you don't want to go through them. So. Yeah.
Well, it's a product. It's not even, you can't even call it art anymore. It's a product.
Yeah.
If they can't make money off of it, if they can't have lunch meetings in New York over it and talk about the, all the extra things that are going to happen, like the Netflix deal, they don't want it. That it's too competitive of an arena now. So that's what makes these smaller print presses great, is people are still getting to be a published author.
Yeah, and there are some really good public, like John. John's a great author, and
and so are you.
Great,
and your publishing
Absolutely.
company's not massive, but they've got an impressive roster.
Yeah, and it allows the telling of stories that otherwise would not make it to the marketplace, which is so exciting.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it really is. John, okay, so these are all my Gucci favorite questions. If you could date any science fiction character, which one would it be?
Zoe from Firefly.
Yeah.
From what?
Yeah, from Firefly.
From Firefly.
Oh, right. Okay.
Zoe.
That's a good answer.
Yeah.
So you like strong women?
Yeah, I was saying, it was her or Aronson from Farscape. But yes, both of those then go into the strong women.
That's great.
If you could live in any fictional universe, which one would it be? Like any verse, like anything. Would you live or would you live?
So I have kind of a two-part answer there.
Sure.
One would be Star Trek, only because everything's great and they have replicators.
Yeah.
And that sounds awesome and like low key. But for a more like actually like exciting life, it'd probably be like Firefly or Star Wars, where like things break, things are grimy, there's still bad guys. Like, so if I wanted to just chill, it'd be the Federation and spandex and all that. But if I wanted to go on fun adventures, it'd be the other universes.
Yeah.
And would you be human? Would you be on Star Trek? Would you be a human? Would you be like a Klingon? What do you think your character would be? What kind of character would you want to be on that show?
I think I'd be a human. And all of my characters Like I always view myself as like Will in Space Rose and like John Crichton and Farscape and stuff. Like I like that goofy human fish out of water kind of thing. So yeah, I would be a human just to like understand what Quantum Leap was and then be able to tell other people about it.
And just have the human experience. Rob, what would you?
Yeah.
Where would I live? Oh, I just recently got into the culture books, and see, I think that has the cleanliness of Star Trek, but also the possibility of all the crazy adventure brokenness of everything else. So yeah, the culture really has been appealing to me recently. Yeah.
So that's where you'd live?
Yeah.
You're not going to ask me where I'd live?
I'm so sorry. How rude.
You should be sorry. Rude. Right? Rude.
I know.
I'm the guest.
Where would you live besides?
Sure that.
Where would you live besides the DC universe where Jason Momoa is?
I wouldn't live in the DC universe. I'm not a DC
My
fan.
bad. Yeah,
I would, okay. You know where I would live? I would live with the Mandalorian, and Baby Yoda would be our son.
Oh wow, you.
Right? I would live with Mandalorian, and we would have our Baby Yoda, and we would just fly around the universe. We'd get a dog.
A dog.
From these planets. It might not be like an actual dog, like it might have tentacles. A dog with tentacles. And I would have, you know what? I actually do. I actually think about that more than you would probably guess.
You were probably right.
Being like the Mandalorian's wife and like having a Baby Yoda. I'm pretty sure scientifically that's not how it works, but in my fantasy it does. What?
I think
are you both Mandalorians? Do you never take your helmets off, or are you the?
No, I am me. I am me.
Oh, okay. You're you. Does he ever take his helmet off? Because that's the thing, right?
You know what? Because I have this great Mandalorian fantasy because I listen to, the Narcos theme song. For some reason, I have it on my phone, and every time it comes on, I have this Mandalorian fantasy to the Narcos theme song because it's Pedro Pascal, and I know that's just like my little tie-in. And I have like the first, it's like the wedding, and then the wedding night, and you know what, Rob? On the wedding night, his helmet is still on.
Okay.
Every fantasy, the helmet's still on, and then the wedding night, and then we have the Baby Yoda, and you see Baby Yoda on like the ultrasound, and then we had the Baby Yoda, and then every single time in my fantasy, we're like in this backyard garden, and it's the near the end of the song, and we're on this swing, my fucking dog runs into the fantasy, and then there's Brody with his fucking pajama bottoms and his messy hair, and his grouchy expression with his mess. And every single time, I can't even get rid of them, even in my fantasy life.
That's awesome. John, you're welcome. You're welcome.
This went in interesting places.
Right.
Yeah. This is why we have such a hard time getting guests. No, I'm just kidding.
No.
I am just curious, what is the plan when, like, Baby Yoda is, like, angsty, douche nozzle teenage Yoda and, like, doesn't listen to you and stuff?
I feel like,
Oh.
Did I just ruin it?
School.
Yeah.
Boarding school. Intergalactic boarding school.
Yep. He goes to Mando boarding school. Right.
Yeah, he goes to No, because you know what? He went off to boarding school with Luke Skywalker. He stopped being my problem like at the end of season.
Oh, good call. He went off to Jedi school.
He's Luke's problem now. And that's fine with me. And Mando and I are like going on cruises and shit, right? Alaskan cruises. We're playing bingo.
Right. Shuffleboard. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
Well done. Well done.
Right?
John,
Even in my
John pitched to the curve, you knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, totally.
You can try, but you won't win.
So great. You got one last question for John, Kari?
No, do you?
No, I don't. I asked all the things I wanted to know.
We're done.
We're done. Close. End scene. End scene. We'll do a fade out.
We are out of time for today, though.
We are. Yeah.
It was a pleasure. It was an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Tell us where we can find John, Rob.
Yeah,
John, where can we find you?
You can find me at johnwilker.com, JohnWilker.com. Links to all the books, either direct, you can buy them directly from me, or where all fine electronic books are sold.
And there you have it, folks. John Wilker, as usual. Rob, it's been a pleasure.
Oh, thanks, Kari. I love doing these. John, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming, and we will have you back on when your next book comes out. Until then, a big shout out to our sponsor, Goodwin's Greenhouse Supply and Service. And have a lovely Sunday, folks. See you in September.